Welcome to today's live interview. I'm extremely pleased to have Corinne Kantor on with me today. We are going to be talking all things product listing. So your product image, product descriptions. It's going to be a really fun interview today. So a little bit of background about the RD to RD live show. So we moved, my name is Megan Boitano, and I am the founder of RD to RD. And starting back in November, we started doing a monthly Q&A with a dietitian or expert that would help us create digital products, and decided to move to a weekly format. So this is our third week that I've been doing the live show. So we're going to continue with a live weekly show. Wednesday is 1 o'clock Eastern. And this week, we're very fortunate to have Corinne with us. She has a really unique background, and we actually met over
Our groups.
our shared love of digital products. She was really my first fan of RD to RD, and took the time to show me, in addition to selling on her website, she sells on Etsy, and really walked me through what that marketplace website looks like, kind of gave me some nuts and bolts of what selling on a marketplace looks like, and was really someone who I could message with questions or frustrations, and has really been a good friend throughout this process. And I also, as I was building out RD to RD, you'll learn a lot about Corinne, but she's a very an award-winning writer, and she actually, I hired her to help me write some of the things from my website, including my frequently asked questions and putting together a quick start guide for those of you who have downloaded that resource. So it's got a lot of talents to bring forward, and I think a really unique skill set. So I am going to go ahead and let Corinne tell us a little bit about herself, but just a little tidbit that you might not know, that in addition to being a dietetic technician, Corinne also has a degree in journalism. So I'm really curious to find out how you developed your skills as a writer, because it's such a valuable skill set to have when you're selling digital products, to be really good at writing. And then we'll also talk about your skill in graphic design, but tell us about your, how you developed your skill of writing and some of the work that you're really proud of.
Well, thanks, Megan. I didn't realize I was like your first fan. And happy Dietitian Day. Happy RD Day to everyone who's watching. So my first actual real writing experience where I really fell in love with writing was actually back in junior high school. My English class asked us to create the school newspaper, so I'm not going to date myself too much as to how we actually put it together, but we went on a lot of field trips, went to the high school journalism room. That was such a big deal to me at the time, and the local newspaper. And ever since then, I knew I wanted to be a writer, or I actually wanted to be a big hotshot writer with Nixon, Watergate, and all that, but that hasn't happened. So all through high school, I was in journalism, and then I went on to college at Cal State Fullerton. I majored in journalism, and I ended up falling into technical writing. I was mostly writing like user guides and other types of documentation for computer hardware and software. Later on, I decided that I wanted to do health and nutrition writing. So I went back to school and I got an undergraduate degree in dietetics. So I'd say, let's face it, I've been a technical writer for over 20 years now, and mostly computer hardware and software, but I have my website that I do nutrition health writing on. I've done guest blog posts for a lot of other websites. I've published my book on Amazon and.
So I think one of the aspects as I've gotten to know you, the difference kind of between technical writing and just kind of your, I don't know, whether you're doing creative writing or otherwise, what really constitutes technical writing, and really how do you apply, like, what are the factors that make it technical writing as opposed to other types of writing?
So for one thing, technical writing, it's very formal. It's very different from creative writing. So that's definitely a transition I've had to make, going into health and nutrition writing. Most of my technical writing has been writing like user guides, quick start guides, installation guides for computer hardware and software. And it's very to the point, and just some of the writing I've done for you, right? Like the quick start guides. So I'd say, again, very formal type of writing versus nutrition and health writing.
But I know you do both. So I alluded in the introduction that in addition to selling digital goods on RD to RD, you also sell on your website and Etsy. So you have quite a lot of experience creating product listings. So we're going to talk about the two key elements of a product listing, which is the product description and then the product listing image. So both of those two are really essential to have a comprehensive product listing. So let's start with let's talk about the description. How do you approach writing that description? Is there a template you use or a format? Let's just walk me through how you tackle the description.
Okay, so I don't really use a template, but I use a lot of the skills that I use in my technical writing. I like to use short paragraphs and bullets, because when people are reading something like a product description, you do want it to be easy to read and to the point. A lot of times people are just skimming it over maybe the first time, and then they might go back and read it in more detail again. I think the most important thing to keep in mind when writing product description is to consider who your target audience is, who you developed this product for, and that the person reading it knows nothing about your product, and they might not know anything about you as well. So a lot of cases, this is going to be their first impression of you. And when you're buying something online, I'm sure you've all bought something online, especially something like a digital download. It's not something that you can pick up and touch it or feel it or handle it yourself. So it's really important to include a lot of information about what the product is and what they're going to be getting. Always think about what I would want to know about the product if I was buying it. And digital downloads typically aren't something that can be returned, where you buy something on Amazon, right? You don't like it, you can return it. You can even bring it to Kohl's now. They're making it a lot easier to return things now, but not with digital downloads. So it's really important that they know what they're getting so they're not disappointed.
Yeah. When you say thinking about who your target customer is, do you call out that customer? I'm thinking about one of the products that you sell on RD to RD that's been very successful is your grocery store tour toolkit, and I think your product description there is very comprehensive, and I'd love for you. We can even talk us through how you structured that, or because I think there's a lot of meat in that might help kind of create some, see it in real life.
Okay, so when I was creating the product, I originally was creating it for DTRs. I actually have a group for DTRs, and the grocery store tours is something that Dietetic can do without the supervision of an RD as a service they can offer. And while working on this, I was thinking, this is something that I think could be useful to dietitians as well. And I did have a dietitian review it, and she agreed. So I kind of revamped it, did a little repurposing of the ebook. So that's how I came up with who the target audience would be. So, I started off about the benefits, talking about why techs and dietitians, it's a good way to gain new clients. But if your grocery store tour isn't organized or it's not planned out well, it might not be effective or successful. And so from there, I have look at product description right now, bullet points, basically an outline of everything that's in the ebook. If you're promoting an ebook and have a table of contents, I would just list the table of contents as part of your product description. Again, bullet points, it's easy to read, and they're going to see, what type of content is in the book. In the ebook, I have worksheets and handouts. I think people love things like that, if it's already done for them, something they can fill in that they don't have to create themselves. So I talk about that.
Yeah, and I think you kind of described a little bit of the pain point and the, transformation, that if your grocery store tour isn't well organized, that the experience for the person who's, either, you're charging for, or you're doing it as a way to get additional clients, it's not going to have the same benefit for your business. So I think making that statement in the product description, is a hook, right? It tells people, oh, I'm thinking about offering a grocery store tour. Oh, here's a potential downfall. I'm not organized. And then, you continue on with a, bulleted list of, there's worksheets, there's handouts, there's a checklist, all of the tools that you need, rather than just saying a one-liner, this is a comprehensive grocery store tour toolkit, and end it there.
Exactly. Yeah. I say, the way I approach this is that on my website, I have an article about organizing grocery store tours. It's more general. And then the ebook contains a lot more information. And again, the worksheets and handouts than what's in the blog article. So, in the blog article, I'll talk about, if you want to learn more, want more information, want all these other wonderful things, here's an ebook on just how you can do that.
And that's actually a really good point, that, as we're looking to monetize, our website, generate passive income, that as we create blog content or content on our website, that if we've drummed up, if we've built up interest, a lot of times we're offering maybe a free download, but you can also offer a paid product that's linked from your blog post that then, can, generate income for you, especially if it's a topic that's, commonly searched for. So we talked a little bit about that product listing description. So the importance you mentioned first of identifying who. So before you even approach writing the description, saying, who is this product for? And I think we inherently know, but sometimes being very explicit that this is for registered dietitians and dietetic technicians, or it's for health professionals, or it's for the public, or who it's for, because they don't know what your digital download contains. So providing a who is this for, and maybe what pain points it solves. And then you mentioned getting a little bit specific with what it, the content. So whether it is 2 pages or 20 pages, and whether it has checklists or
something else I was going to add was I include the number of pages. I have no refunds. I have my licensing information. I have that as a PDF. So it's important, again, for people to know what they're getting. If they're paying $10, $15 for something, they want to know, are they getting 2 pages or 20 pages? Definitely again, they want to know what they're getting, and don't make any assumptions that, people will be able to figure all this out just by writing a couple sentences in your product description. Again, you know what the product is, you know what's in it, you know who it's designed for, but someone else just coming onto your web page, they won't have any idea.
Right. They're not going to know. So what do you think, I know you spend time, anytime you're, good at something, you quick to pick out, mistakes. And what are the common mistakes that you see people make when you're browsing through other descriptions? What do you go, oh, what are common things people do wrong?
I'd say definitely, we're just talking about check your spelling. And also keep in mind that this being their first impression of you and your product, if it's not well written, doesn't include enough details or enough information about your product, they might think not as highly of your product. If it's not well written, again, in spelling errors and things like that, they might think your product isn't very high quality and isn't going to be very detailed as well.
I think the product description goes a long way to create value for your product. That, a one sentence description, doesn't really, it doesn't build a lot of value. It doesn't really, help a person click that buy button, that the more, content you provide, the more value I think you're going to indicate for people, and telling them about the product and the problems that it solves and what the features of it are, even if it's something short that's just, a couple of pages, but even more so, I think, for products that are more expensive.
Definitely the more expensive ones. So when writing your product description, then just think about, would you buy it? Would you buy a product based on this product description that you wrote? I think it's a good idea to, at least if you're just starting out and you're not sure, show your product descriptions to someone else, and they might have questions, and your answers to those questions might be good information to include in your product description as well. I think it's great. I think you just added that functionality to the RD website where potential customers can contact the buyers if they had a question. So there was a product I was interested in, and I had some questions, and I think I had asked you about. So
yeah, that's a good point. That having someone else look at your description, but also if there's a question about the product, having a way to reach you as the seller to ask a question. That was functionality that I thought was pretty essential. So I did build that into RD to RD so that when someone's browsing, the store and they have a product question, they can reach out to the seller directly and get those questions answered, kind of pre-purchase type questions. So that's helpful.
Yeah. And it might be a question that you didn't think about, which is fine. And then you might decide, oh, maybe I should add that to my product listing. And I know on your website, it's really easy to go back in and edit your product descriptions and update them. So I definitely recommend that for everyone to, if you have a product listed on Megan's website right now, go back through it, read it from the viewpoint of, a stranger who doesn't know anything about you or your product, and see if it makes sense and answers your questions, and maybe spend some time. I spend a lot of time on my product descriptions and my images, which I know we're going to talk about. And I think maybe I'm spending too much time on it. I sometimes wonder, other people spend this much time on the product, but it's really important, and it's, again, it's their first impression of me and my product.
But I
And
also think changing our mindset when we're creating a digital product to sell, that a lot of that effort is front loaded. So the idea is we're creating something that's scalable, meaning we put the time investment in once, and then we can sell that product and, continue to, as they call it, passive income. I prefer to call it
yes.
scalable. That making, taking the time, to write a really, an excellent product description means that your product has the best potential to generate, that, passive income for you. And it isn't hindering you. It's not really holding you back. Because I've spent a lot of time, there's almost 100 products that are listed on RD to RD. And there might already be over 100. The listings go up every time I log on. And I can tell you just from, I get an email every single time something's downloaded. And the products that have a comprehensive description, there's products that are being downloaded for free. There's really very little barrier. You're like, well, what's, even if the description's not that comprehensive, they're still probably going to download it. But the paid products, the things that people are actually purchasing, are products that have a very comprehensive product description. People are hesitant, and you also see abandoned sales. So people who put something in their shopping cart but don't maybe go through that checkout process because, maybe they changed their mind. So some of that, making sure, my own observation is your product description does matter for people who are shopping and browsing.
And excuse me, you mentioned a free product. I spend as much time as I do on my free products as I do my paid products. So sometimes they see you have a free product and a paid product, they're going to download your free product first to get your style, see what your products are like before they decide to spend any of their hard-earned money on your product. So again, the product descriptions and the free products themselves are just as important.
Yeah, I would
paid ones.
completely agree that even when you're giving something away for free, we talk about this in list building, that you want to wow them, to say, wow, look at what they gave me for free. Imagine what I'm going to get when I hire them, when I pay for a product, or, download a course or whatever, service that you're selling. But if your free product, the description and perhaps the graphic, the image that I know we're going to talk about next, everything you put out there is saying something about you and your business and the quality that you provide. So I think what you just said is of the utmost importance, that you put a ton of effort into both your free and your paid products, because it's still your brand, it's still your business. And the one thing that's valuable, RD to RD does allow free products, but it also allows paid products. But it allows vendors to go in and access people who've downloaded their free products to then, remarket to for, purchasing a paid product. And that's one way, free products help us grow our list, help us, identify people who might be purchasers of our paid products going forward. So.
And the other thing to keep in mind that I'm really excited about is your affiliate program.
Yes.
So, that's the reason why it's important to have good product descriptions. I'd love it if someone purchased my grocery shopping toolkit ebook and, was able to make a sale as an affiliate. But if you could have a great product, but if the product description isn't well written, it's going to be harder, I think, to sell as an affiliate product as well.
That's an excellent point, that it's hard to promote a product that, the description is very short.
Exactly.
You don't really know what the product contains. So I want to switch gears a little bit, because as much as I love talking about the product description, we talked about those two essential components when you make a product listing, right? You've got the description, spending a ton of time writing that. As important is that listing image. So I know you sell on Etsy, and anybody, I would encourage you.
My other life.
Yeah, your other life. And I actually think that's just phenomenal that you do that. And it's totally a different, product, niche completely. But if you're looking for inspiration, going on a site like Etsy and going to their digital downloads section and just browsing, you'll be blown away at the quality of, and there's blog posts and forums on how to create, product listings that sell, because people earn their living selling on Etsy.
They
So,
do.
it's a really great resource to learn like these skills. I've spent quite a bit of time looking at blogs that are solely dedicated to people who sell on Etsy, just as a learning opportunity for my own self. So I want to switch gears and talk about that listing image. And, first, before we do that, I know you have kind of a background in graphic design, so we didn't talk about that yet. Can you share a little bit about your background in design?
Sure. So again, being a technical writer, I've had to do some graphics as well. And, with the internet and technology changing, I do a lot more graphics now for writing than I did when I was first starting out. And I've also gotten into website design. So as far as getting ideas for images, I've actually spent a lot of time on Etsy, just looking at images and looking at product descriptions, and it's a great way to get ideas. As far as the tools I use Adobe Illustrator for many years, but I've really fallen in love with Canva now. I use the paid version. I mean, I used the free version for a while. Now I'm using the paid version. The two features I really use a lot are the folders, because I just really need those to keep me organized, not just for my own artwork, but for client artwork as well. It makes it a lot easier to share images in Canva with them. And I also like that you can resize your images. And I have a little Canva course on my website for Dietetic, and you've done a lot of promoting of Canva, and I taken the class that you offered. So I love Canva. There's a lot I've used Canva for that. There's no way I'd be able to create that in Illustrator. Yeah. And Canva also comes with free images as well. So I also use Paint Shop Pro. That's a Corel product. I use that to take and edit screenshots. It's basically like a miniature Photoshop, but it's much less inexpensive. It's maybe like, I don't know, $30 or $40. I've been using it for so many years. I can't remember. I just, we buy the new version when it comes out, and they always have promotions going on.
Would you say that, sometimes you've got people who are starting out who maybe have mastered, maybe they're new. And so Canva is super, easy to use. It's versatile. You can use the free version. But then what if, let's say you want more? We'll start talking a little bit more about product listings, but what's like the next step? You mentioned Illustrator. I've heard that mentioned a couple of times.
Paint Shop Pro. I also use Deposit Photos.
Oh, yeah.
For a stock image, which I think I'd refer that to you. They have really great prices, and I think I've used a few different stock photo gallery websites, and I think from my experience, Deposit Photos has the best ones for anything related to like food and nutrition type of work we do. And I'm not sure if they do this for anyone on their email list or just for customers, but they send out a weekly email with free images that you can download and sometimes free videos, which is nice too.
I spent a bit of time reviewing license agreements for various stock image, whether it's Adobe or, that one thing, Deposit Photos, most of the time you have to buy a different license if you're going to use it in something you're going to sell. Now, if you're creating a listing image, that's still kind of considered promotional. But if you're actually, let's say, putting it in the ebook you're going to sell or a handout you're going to sell, that then requires you to purchase this very expensive license. But Deposit Photos specifically says their standard license is okay for ebook resale, which every other one doesn't allow you to put it in an ebook you're going to sell. So Deposit Photos alone, for that reason, got me. I was like, oh, so I don't have to worry about putting it in a book that I'm selling for a.
Right. And I've asked them a few times. I just wanted to be so careful that, I didn't do anything wrong or use their images illegally. Right. And so I think I normally choose the non-editorial option.
Yeah.
When searching for images. Even, I'd have to look again, but even then there's still so many options available. There were so many photos available.
So let's go, and as we talk about creating that listing image, so one of the things, what are you trying to convey? So ultimately, people are, if you're scrolling on RD to RD or Etsy, or even if you think about something, I don't think eBay allows you to sell digital downloads anymore. They used to. But imagine someone scrolling through. How do you catch people's attention? So what components are important for a listing image? Like, what does it need to contain?
Well, the first thing I always do before I start creating an image is I look to see what the image size requirements or recommendations are for that website. So for instance, on your website, Megan, you have image size recommendations. And it's important to follow that, because basically if you don't and you use an image that's the wrong size, it's not going to look right on the website, and even more so on a mobile device. So you could spend a lot of time creating a beautiful image, but if it's not the correct size, it's not going to display well.
Right. And to kind of piggyback on that, for example, Facebook banner, you may have struggled to get one that's the right size. Canva has preset templates, but there's also, you can always say use custom, and most websites are going to tell you the pixel height and width that is recommended, and all you do is you key that in and it creates a little template that's exactly that size. So when you download it, it's going to fit perfectly, whether you're selling on Etsy, your own website, or you're selling, maybe you're selling on RD to RD. You want to get that image size correct, or it's going to get cut off. It's not going to look, again, your brand, you, the professional, what people think of that product, the value of it. If the image is all chopped off, they're going to go,
words are missing.
Yeah.
So one thing I do with Canva, is I'll create, let's say, my product image I created for your site, right? And I have that saved. And then the next time I need to create a product image for your site, for one of my product listings, instead of, looking through, and by the way, the information about product image sizes for your website are in that quick start guide. And I think they're on the product listing page. But I'll create the image, I'll save it, and then the next time I go to create a product image, instead of looking for the image size again, because I can't remember, I'll just take my existing image that I created in Canva, and you can copy it and then rename it, and I'll start from there. So it's basically using it like a template.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Because you can't, one of the things that Canva doesn't allow you to do, at least I haven't figured out how, is to use the resize tool and resize to a custom size. It only allows the preset options, or at least I can't figure it out.
There's a way, it's in another menu.
Oh.
And I don't have Canva open right now, but I can share that with you later. It's in a menu, and maybe we post it.
Yeah, that would be really valuable, because if you're...
I had to hunt for it too.
Oh, I didn't, literally, I hunted too, and I guess I wasn't diligent enough, because I gave up. I was like, well, I guess I got to start over from scratch. So
it's there.
Well, that's really handy. Thanks.
It's there. So that's basically how, again, I create my template for my product images, and I have one for RD to RD.
So your grocery store tour toolkit has basically like the front page of your ebook kind of showing on the product image. And for me, this was like climbing Mount Everest, trying to figure out how to get a really tiny little, you know, kind of front cover on another graphic was quite a challenge to figure out how to accomplish that. With some time and practice, I figured out how to do that. Is that, as I browse Etsy, other places, it seems like that's something that's almost standard. You include either pages stacked on top of one another or laid out, or at least the front cover. Is this pretty much the way that it's done?
I like to show something as far as how to do that. Again, really simple. I can send you the instructions and maybe we can post it somewhere. But I basically, I have my ebook in a PDF. I use PaintShop Pro to take a screenshot of the cover and I save it. And then in Canva, you can import images, upload images, right? So I upload that image. And
what
then
I've been using a website. I don't have like I think the hard part is to take something that's a PDF and make it into an image so that you can upload it into Canva. Like that's the trick part for me. So if you have like a Photoshop equivalent, it's probably a lot easier.
Yeah, and again, PaintShop Pro is so inexpensive.
Yeah, probably valuable to have. I've been using a website called smallpdf.com, and you can change between file types. Like you can make something from a PowerPoint to PDF. So I basically just upload the PDF and then tell it create a JPEG of the entire like one page of each. And then I just grab those really quick and upload them into Canva and create that image. So I think figuring out how, like finding a way, and I think we'll put your instructions and then I'm going to put some more detail about how to do that, because I think, the more I browse different websites, Teachers Pay Teachers is another great example of digital downloads. It is a way to get kind of inspiration, but you'll start to see that, having the ability to put a couple of pages from your product on the listing image makes people click on it. It makes people click and go, oh, that looks really pretty. You spent all this time creating a very beautiful product, that being able to tantalize them a little bit with the image of what they'll get helps, get people to click yours.
Again, because we were talking about, since it's online, it's not something that you can pick up and touch and feel and turn over. So sometimes, especially for like a form or a worksheet, that's something people want to see, or they want to know what's in it. Going back to product listings, writing just one sentence saying, oh, this is a form for dietitians to use for a new patient screening, versus including more details. You can take a screenshot of your form as well and put it in your product image. Just a couple things to consider if you're going to do that is that I would either put some sort of a watermark on it, or because what could happen is, with technology these days, it's really easy for someone to save an image or take a screenshot of it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying dietitians would do that, but your website is open to the public. Anyone can come on your website and take a screenshot, and there they have their form ready made without having to purchase it. So I'd say put a watermark on it, maybe rotate it a little and integrate it with another image, like I did with my grocery store toolkit. Don't have to include every page of, maybe it's a 4 or 5 page form, maybe just include a couple of pages, but don't make it so easy for someone to be able to download it or copy it and use it themselves. I do that in Etsy. If any of you have ever purchased a digital download on Etsy, you probably noticed in the product listing there is a watermark or something on there.
Yeah.
To make it more.
That's a good point, that, the reality is that, protecting, if you have a product that's for sale, making sure that if you are showing an image of what they're getting, that you're not just, giving the product away, that they could take, a screenshot and, find a way to use it. So I think you're balancing that, showing them and also protecting your work, in an online, like if you're at the bookstore and you're looking at a book or, a packet, you can thumb through it. But you can't walk out of the store with it. So I think you're trying to create that same element of thumbing through it, but not in an online world. Technically, they can walk away with it. So how do you create as much of that same feel that they can kind of get a feel for your product, but not give it all away?
Right. And I don't recall which product listing I saw on your website, but there's one on there where someone I think did a really good job of posting the pages of their form and including a watermark without being able to, give it away to someone.
Yeah, in this, afterwards I'll add some links, some examples. I know Erica Juleson has a handout on a snacking guide, and she includes pages, but there's a big block over the middle of it that says demo content. So you can kind of get an idea of what's included, but it's not like you could use a page of the handout, because no client would be like, well, why is half the sheet, blocked out? So that's a really good point.
And actually, one more thing. If you're going to use a watermark, I wouldn't use the term draft or something like that, because then it looks like the product isn't finished. I use like your company name or your logo. It doesn't have to be text. It could be an image as well. Maybe your company logo.
Yeah.
And in Canva, back to Canva, Canva has a tool to do transparencies. There's a little slider tool in there. So that's something else you can consider doing if you're going to post a form as a product image. Use that transparency slider.
I haven't done that yet. That's a good tip. I'll have to check that out. So we kind of bounced around a little bit between, I think, the description and the listing image are kind of intertwined with one another, but that including that kind of, if you're downloading a product, including a picture of, what they're going to get, or oftentimes I see kind of putting it in a lifelike situation. So for example, it's like a desk, there's kind of maybe like some coffee and a pen and like the paper there that, it looks kind of like a designer did it, right? It's very appealing, and people like things that are pretty. In the online world, things have to look nice, because that's what's that's what people makes them click. How do you
Beautiful. There's beautiful images out there.
So if you're, one thing that I do routinely is I just save inspiration. When I had Whitney Catalano on back in, December, I think, she really inspired me to start saving things that look good to me and really starting to kind of think like a designer. What did they do here? And really trying to recreate that in my own way with, I can get a graphic image of a cup of coffee and some pencils and basically recreating it. That way, when you sit down to create your listing image, you've got a file perhaps of inspirations, and you can kind of, have a jumping off point rather than looking at the screen going, you just type in the title of it and be like, well, that's good enough, click.
Yeah. Again, product image is the first impression that someone's going to have. I do think it's important to include text about, what your product is, and include some color to make it eye appealing, but you don't want to make the image look too busy, too complex. I think font selection is really important. There's a lot of beautiful fonts available for free, but I think some of them can be very difficult to read. There's some beautiful script fonts, but I've seen product images where, again, it's really difficult for me to read it. So I like to go with simple. Mm-hmm. Yes, something else to consider is your font selection.
Yes, you're not the first person that said make sure your font is readable. Ultimately, the script fonts can be very, very difficult to read. And remember that you could be selling in an area where people are scrolling. In this day and age, people are just, they're not looking at every word. And if it's script and it's difficult to read, they're probably just going to scroll past.
Right. And I see that on Pinterest a lot too. I'm a big Pinterest person. I see that in a lot of Pinterest images. Beautiful images, but I can't read the text on it because the script fonts can be a little too overwhelming.
Yeah, using them selectively.
So you can use a very simple font and it could still be a beautiful image.
Yeah. So, we talked about the product description, and we talked about the image. So if we kind of put that all together, and we talked a little bit about the grocery store tour toolkit. We can either, I don't know if you want to try to screen share and you can kind of show that off. I don't know if you're comfortable doing that. Otherwise, don't worry about it. You should be able to hit screen share. If not, I can try to figure out how to do it. There you go.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay.
You can kind of talk us through what you did here.
Sure. So as I mentioned, I came about creating this product. Originally, it was meant to be for dietetics, but then I decided it was something that I thought dietitians could use as well. So I began by writing a blog article, and then I expanded on the blog article to create the ebook. Again, and I'll scroll down in a moment to show you, but it has a lot of worksheets and handouts in it and everything you need to organize and plan a successful grocery store.
But I think that's really important what you have right there. You're telling people, you're giving them that promise. And I think if you listen in to webinars, I did the Teachable Summit, it's really important to tell them right away what they're getting from your product. Rather than just saying grocery store tour toolkit. That little sentence that you included there does a lot to make them click on their image and read more about it. And then the image that you have on the front there, that's the front cover of your PDF download, is that correct?
Yes, this is the cover. So what I did was I took a screenshot of the cover using Paint Shop Pro, and I saved it. I uploaded it into Canva. So if there's any Canva users out there, you might notice that background in Canva, that diamond shape. It's pretty common, I think. I don't know how it's showing up. And again, I just added like a simple line on the bottom. I wanted, again, color. I used a simple font. I wanted it to be easy to read. I wanted to match the colors on the cover of the ebook. And something I go back and forth about sometimes is, sticking with the colors, with my branding and my logo and all that. But I decided, at least for this product, I wanted something with a lot of color in it. And I think it's pretty eye-catching.
Yeah, and I think just pointing out that the greens match, right? The green on your cover is the same as the green on your text. And the red plays off the red tomatoes, that, those elements of, design that makes it eye-appealing.
All right, and this is so simple to do. I just, again, uploaded the screenshot, and then I use the rotate tool in Canva.
And you also have your text you have it right aligned on the side there, just so that it looks kind of nice and neat. So those are just like little elements that kind of help contribute to this looking like a very professional image.
And it's not like a right or wrong way of doing this. It's just, what you're happy with and what you think is easy to read. again, I did spend a lot of time on it because I'm always playing with things, and again, Etsy's a great place to get ideas for product image, product listings. And then this is my product description. Maybe a little lengthy, but again, I use short paragraphs. I used a lot of bullets, so I think it's easy to read, very skimmable, they say. I have a summary up here of a couple sentences, about why a dietetic or dietitian might want to do grocery store. I go into what you're going to learn in the ebook. I have, number of pages. It's downloadable PDF. It contains worksheets and handouts. And then I have a list of all the handouts.
And I think that's really important that it's skimmable. I think anytime you see a giant multiple paragraphs of text, just you know yourself that you're probably not going to read those giant paragraphs. So breaking that up, bulleting it out, making it skimmable, because that's what people do on the internet. They skim. And then they skim it and they're like, oh, this might be worth reading. So then they go back up to the top and they might review it in more detail.
Actually, something else that might be helpful to everyone is we all have to do continuing education, right? And a lot of like the listings you see promoting like the workshops you can get, they all have course objectives in them, right? What you're going to learn by taking this online webinar or course or whatever it is. So think about what the objectives are for your downloads and kind of convert those into bullets. So these were, I guess you could say, my objectives, or what you're going to learn by purchasing this.
Right. I think we talk about a couple things. One is the product features versus the transformation, or what the better state the person who buys it is going to be in as a result of purchasing your product. And I think talking about how it benefits the customer, which you did up at the top, that it really, it tells you what it's going to do. Then also talking about your product features, but not confusing the two of those, that they are different. So they may be a lot of the similar words, but telling them a list of this includes, like down at the bottom, you have planners, shopping lists, that's great. But what you did at the top is you told them it teaches you how to conduct, how to prepare, how to promote. So that's kind of that future state, that if I buy this product, I'm going to know how to prepare, promote, and conduct. Then you're further defining that out with the specific contents that then kind of solidifies that, oh, I believe that I'm going to be able to prepare, promote, and conduct because I have all of these tools as well. So the benefits for the person buying it, or the outcome they're buying, as well as the features. So I think you did a really good job on this one. I love it. It's been a very successful product. So clearly it's it contains a lot of the essential elements. So
thank you. So I said I don't really use a template. This is like my writing style. I guess it sort of is my template in a way. Again, I start off with just a short summary, then I go into bullet points with more detail of what they're going to be getting. And then I have this other information down here, which some websites that's included. File size, be sure to mention, don't just put the number, put if it's megabytes or whatever it is.
Yeah, people want to know that. So I know we're getting close to the end of our time today, but if people, I know you do work for technical writing, you do graphic design. If someone wants to get in touch with you because they want a little help writing or creating an image for their product, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, I've done a lot of freelance work for dietitians. So my nutrition website is thefoodcop.com, and my email address is info@thefoodcop.com.
Okay, we'll put that in the notes from today.
Just have any questions, you know, about Canva or anything, and I think I'll send you the information afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll have you click that little like stop sharing button on your screen maybe. I can't see it, or I guess I could probably take over. Oh, there we are. Yay. Yeah. So if people want to, I always forget I can see you, but I don't think everyone else can. That if they want to, you want to get in touch with Corinne, and if you have, you know, I personally, well, I'd love to be an expert at all things. I can say, you know, when I was getting ready to launch RD to RD, that one of the things I really needed was like a 2-page quick start guide, right? How to update your profile, how to upload a new product. And, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a huge task. I don't know how to organize all this into a 2-page document. And like in a matter of a couple of days, back comes this fantastic 2-page quick start guide that I was like, oh my gosh. So I think sometimes, you know, I've talked to a lot of people who, you know, sometimes learning how to do something and sometimes finding someone who has the skill can, you know, really help you tick a box off. Or if you have a really great product, you're just not really sure how to write a listing description or create an image, that, you know, we don't have to all be experts at everything. And if it's, you know, all of the things we've talked about, you know, that over time, maybe, you know, I've gotten better, but I still couldn't have produced that quick start guide. So I still love it.
And remember, if you have a product listing on Megan's website right now, you can go back in and make changes to it. Definitely remember to look at the image size. Look at your product description, not just on your computer, but look at it on a mobile device, on your phone or tablet, and see how it looks on there. And you can see if the image is fitting correctly or not. And or show it to someone else, have someone else look at it and look at your product listing. And you, again, just summarizing here, if they might ask questions, and your answers might be information you'd want to add to your product listing.
That's a really great point. I think in the digital world, it can be a little lonely sometimes, but to remember that, you know, we're in a community that, you know, we can ask people that, hey, would you take a look at this for me? And most people will be happy to say, oh yeah, I'll take a look, and get feedback, because, you know, it's oftentimes helpful.
I honestly think I have like more online virtual friends now than I do like
live.
Yeah, live friends.
Yeah. It's easy to connect with, you know, it's easier, I think, to connect online sometimes. So I've really found this to be very valuable, and I will post some of the resources that you mentioned and that I mentioned, links and examples of listings on RD to RD that, you know, are done very well, like the one we were looking at of yours, but there's plenty of other great examples. So that people can study. And again, we talked about things like looking at Etsy, looking at Teachers Pay Teachers, because it's a great place to go and see tons of listings in a matter of 10 minutes. And you're going to start to go, oh, and some of the light bulbs will start to come on, because it's a learned skill. It's new.
And don't think you can't do it. Don't think you're not creative. Again, there's so many tools out there, free tools and very inexpensive tools that do a lot of this for you.
Yeah. But we don't have to make it. We don't have to make it more difficult than it needs to be. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Again, happy Dietitian Day to everyone.
Yes. All right. I think I'm going to